Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the dark space around him. Stars filled the view screen of his mining ship, the Stellar Dawn. He had been flying through space for 20 years, but the beauty of the stars never got old. Today felt different. Though, something was calling to him from the asteroid belt ahead. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said Lisa Adams from the pilot's seat. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "The scanners are picking up something big in the asteroid field." Jake walked over to look at her screen. Numbers and lines covered the display, but one thing stood out. There was a massive object hiding among the rocks. It was much bigger than any asteroid should be. "How big are we talking about?" Jake asked. 15 kilometers long, maybe more," Lisa replied. Her voice showed her surprise. "That's not normal for this system." Carlos Martinez, the ship's engineer, looked up from his workstation. "Could be a really big space rock. These old systems sometimes have weird stuff floating around." Dr. Helen Wright, their science officer, shook her head. "The metal content is too high. This isn't just rock and ice. There's something else out there." Jake made his choice. "Take us in closer. Let's see what we found." The Stellar Dawn moved slowly into the asteroid field. Jake had learned to be careful. In these places, one wrong move could damage the ship or worse. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. As they got closer, the object became clearer on their screens. It was long and dark, covered in what looked like rock and ice. But Helen was right. This wasn't a normal asteroid. "Captain, look at this," Helen said, pointing to her screen. "I'm seeing metal structures under all that ice. This thing has been here for a very long time." Lisa brought the ship around the object. As they moved, lights from the Stellar Dawn lit up the surface. What they saw made everyone stop talking. "Those are hull plates," Carlos said quietly. "This is a ship. A really big ship." Jake felt his heart beat faster. Finding an old ship was always exciting, but this one was huge. Ships this size were rare. Most species in the galaxy couldn't build something like this. "Can you clean up the image?" Jake asked Helen. "I want to see what we're dealing with." Helen worked at her station for several minutes. Slowly, the image became clearer. The ice and rock covering began to look different. It wasn't natural. Someone had put it there on purpose. "This is camouflage," Helen said with excitement. "Someone hid this ship here. They made it look like an asteroid." "Who would do that?" Lisa asked. "And why?" Jake studied the images carefully. The ship's design was unlike anything he had seen before. It was sleek but powerful looking. The hull had strange markings that were barely visible under the ice. "Helen, can you make out those symbols?" Jake asked. Helen enhanced the image more. The markings became clearer. They were letters and numbers, but in a very old style. Helen's eyes went wide as she read them. "Captain, I think these are old Earth standard markings," she said. Her voice was shaking. "This could be a human ship." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew the story. Humans had been wiped out 300 years ago. The Zephyrian Empire had led a war against them. No human ships were supposed to exist anymore. "That's impossible," Carlos said. "All human ships were destroyed. Everyone knows that." "Maybe not all of them," Jake said quietly. He looked at the massive ship on their screen. "Maybe someone escaped." Lisa checked her instruments again. "Captain, I'm reading power signatures from inside the ship. Very faint, but they're there. Something is still working in there." Jake felt a chill run down his back. If this was really a human ship, and if something was still working inside, then maybe the humans weren't as extinct as everyone thought. "What do we do?" Helen asked. "Should we report this to the Galactic Council?" Jake thought about it. The Council controlled most of the galaxy now. They had been the ones to allow the human extinction. If they found out about this ship, they might destroy it to keep their secret safe. Not yet, Jake decided. We need to know more first. Can we dock with it? Carlos looked at his screens. Maybe. I can see what might be a docking port. But, Captain, we don't know what's inside. There could be automated defenses. Or there could be answers, Jake said. This ship has been hiding here for 3 centuries. If humans did survive, they might still be in there. Lisa turned to face him. This is dangerous, Jake. We don't know what we're dealing with. That ship is from a time when humans were at war with most of the galaxy. Which is exactly why we need to be careful, Jake replied. But we can't just walk away. This could change everything we know about galactic history. Helen was still studying the symbols on the ship's hull. Captain, I think I can make out part of the name. It looks like it says Valiant. The Valiant, Jake repeated. I've heard that name before. It was supposed to be humanity's greatest warship, but it was destroyed in the final battle. Maybe it wasn't destroyed, Carlos suggested. Maybe it escaped and hid here. Jake made his decision. We're going aboard. Carlos, prepare the airlocks. Lisa, bring us in nice and slow. Helen, keep scanning for any signs of life or danger. As the stellar dawn approached the hidden ship, Jake felt like he was about to make history. If humans had really survived, if they were still alive in that ship, then everything the galaxy believed was wrong. The docking was slow and careful. The Valiant's docking port was old, but still functional. When the 2 ships connected, Jake felt a small vibration through the floor. Docking complete, Lisa reported. The seals are holding. Jake gathered his crew around him. Remember, we don't know what's in there. Stay close, stay alert, and don't touch anything unless I say so. They put on their spacesuits and moved to the airlock. Jake opened the door to the Valiant and stepped inside. The corridor was dark and cold, but the air was breathable. Emergency lights came on as they walked, showing the way ahead. The inside of the ship was impressive. The corridors were wide and well built. Everything looked advanced, even by current galactic standards, but it was also empty and silent. Where is everyone? Helen whispered. Jake was about to answer when alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. The crew looked at each other in fear. I think we just woke something up, Carlos said. Deep inside the ship, systems that had been sleeping for 300 years began to come online. Somewhere in the darkness, a man who had been waiting for centuries was about to open his eyes. Discovery of the Valiant was just the beginning. Jake Morrison and his crew had found more than just an old ship. They had found hope, danger, and the key to secrets that could shake the entire galaxy. The alarms echoed through the empty corridors of the Valiant as Jake Morrison and his crew stood frozen in the red flashing lights. The ship that had been silent for 3 centuries was suddenly alive around them. Should we run? Lisa Adams whispered, her hand moving toward her weapon. Wait, Jake said, holding up his hand. Listen. The alarms stopped as suddenly as they had started. The corridor became quiet again, but the lights stayed on. Something was definitely awake inside this ancient ship. Deep in the heart of the Valiant. Admiral Nathan Cross felt consciousness returning to him like a slow tide. His body was stiff and cold, but alive. A cryogenic chamber around him hissed as it opened, releasing him from his 300-year sleep. Nathan tried to sit up, but his muscles were weak. Machines around him beeped and hummed, checking his health. Green lights showed that his body was functioning, though he felt like he had been asleep for lifetimes. Admiral Cross, a gentle voice said, you are awake. Please remain still while I complete your medical scan. Nathan recognized the voice. It was Aria, the ship's artificial intelligence. She had been his companion through the long years of war, and now she was welcoming him back to consciousness. Aria, Nathan said, his voice rough and dry. "How long was I asleep?" 307 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Arya replied, "You are the last surviving member of the original crew." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. 50,000 people had served on the Valiant. Good men and women who had fought beside him, laughed with him, and trusted him to lead them to safety. Now they were all gone. What happened to them? Nathan asked, though he feared the answer. The cryogenic systems for the main crew sections failed after 200 years, Arya explained. "I was able to maintain your pod using emergency power, but the others could not be saved. I am sorry, Admiral." Nathan closed his eyes and felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders again. He had been responsible for those people. Even in sleep, he had failed them. What is the current situation? He asked, forcing himself to focus on the present. "The galaxy believes humanity is extinct," Arya said. "The Zephyrian Empire claimed victory in the war and divided human territory among the allied species. An organization called the Galactic Council now controls most of known space." Nathan felt anger building in his chest. The Zephyrians had not just wanted to defeat humanity. They had wanted to erase them completely. And it seemed they had succeeded. "However," Arya continued, "we have visitors aboard the ship. 4 beings entered through docking port 7 approximately 12 minutes ago. They appear to be from a mining vessel." Nathan struggled to his feet. His body was weak, but the medical machines had kept him in reasonable condition. Are they hostile? Unknown. They are armed, but have not shown aggressive behavior. 2 appear to be human, though that seems unlikely given our current situation. Nathan's heart jumped. "Human? Are you certain?" "The biometric readings suggest it, but I recommend caution. This could be a trap." Nathan began putting on his uniform, which had been preserved in the chamber with him. His hands shook slightly, but his mind was becoming clearer. If there were humans aboard his ship, he needed to know who they were and how they had survived. Meanwhile, Jake and his crew were exploring the corridors of the Valiant. The ship was enormous, with passages that seemed to go on forever. Everything was clean and well maintained, as if someone had just left moments ago. "This technology is incredible," Hellingwright said, studying a wall panel. "These systems are more advanced than anything we have today." "How is that possible?" Carlos Martinez asked. "This ship is 300 years old. Maybe humans were more advanced than the history books say," Jake suggested. "Maybe that's why the other species were afraid of them." They reached what appeared to be a central corridor. The walls were lined with symbols and displays that Helen was trying to understand. As they walked, lights came on ahead of them and turned off behind them, as if the ship was guiding them somewhere. "I think we're being led," Lisa said nervously. "Should we trust it?" "We've come this far," Jake replied. "Let's see where it wants us to go." The corridor opened into a large chamber filled with screens and control panels. In the center of the room stood a figure that made them all stop breathing. It was a man, tall and strong-looking, wearing a uniform they didn't recognize. His hair was gray, and his face showed the lines of someone who had seen too much war. But his eyes were sharp and alert. "I am Admiral Nathan Cross of the Earth Defense Force," the man said. "You are aboard the starship Valiant. Who are you? And how did you find us?" Jake stepped forward, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the mining vessel Stellar Dawn. We found your ship by accident while searching for minerals." Nathan studied Jake carefully. The man looked human, but Nathan had learned not to trust appearances. "You claim to be human, but humans are extinct. How do you explain that?" "We're not extinct," Jake said. "There are humans throughout the galaxy. We just keep quiet about it." Nathan felt hope and suspicion fighting in his chest. How many humans survived? I don't know exactly, Jake admitted. We live in small groups, usually mixed in with other species. We don't advertise what we are. Helen stepped forward. Admiral, I'm Dr. Helen Wright. I study old cultures and languages. I've been researching human history for years. Most of the galaxy believes your people were completely destroyed. That was the plan, Nathan said bitterly. The Zephyrians wanted to make sure humanity could never rise again. They hunted down every human ship, every colony, every survivor they could find. But you escaped, Carlos said. You hid here and waited. Nathan nodded. The Valiant was humanity's last hope. We carried genetic samples, cultural archives, and the most advanced technology Earth had ever created. The plan was to hide until the galaxy forgot about us, then emerge to rebuild. 300 years is a long time to wait, Lisa said. I had no choice, Nathan replied. Arya, show them the archives. The screens around the room came alive with images and data. Jake and his crew saw pictures of Earth, records of human achievements, and technical specifications for technologies that seemed impossible. This is incredible, Helen breathed. You have the entire history of humanity stored here. Not just history, Nathan said. The future. Manufacturing plants, shipyards, weapon designs, and the location of other hidden human installations throughout the galaxy. Jake felt the weight of what they had discovered. Other installations? There are more ships like this? Ships, research stations, supply depots, Nathan confirmed. Humanity's extinction was carefully staged. We made it look like we were defeated, while actually preparing for our return. But why now? Jake asked. Why wake up after 300 years? Nathan smiled grimly. Because you found us. Arya has been monitoring galactic communications for centuries. She knows the current political situation. The time for hiding is over. Admiral, Arya's voice filled the room. I am detecting incoming ships. 3 Zephyrian patrol vessels are approaching our position. Nathan's expression hardened. How long until they arrive? Approximately 30 minutes. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. We need to get out of here. If they find us, they'll destroy both ships. No, Nathan said firmly. I've been hiding. For 3 centuries. I will not run anymore. But Admiral, Lisa said, this is just one ship. Those are 3 patrol vessels. You can't fight them all. Nathan looked at her with the confidence of a man who had spent his life preparing for this moment. Miss Adams, this is not just any ship. This is the Valiant. We were built to fight impossible odds. He turned to Arya. Bring all systems online. Prepare for combat. Yes, Admiral, Arya replied. Throughout the ship, systems that had been dormant for centuries began to activate. The Valiant was waking up completely. Nathan looked at Jake and his crew. You have a choice to make. You can take your ship and run, or you can stay and witness the return of humanity to the galaxy. Jake looked at his crew, then back at Nathan. What happens if you win? Then the galaxy learns that humanity is not extinct, Nathan said. And they learn that we remember everything they did to us. And if you lose? Nathan's smile was cold. Then at least we'll go down fighting instead of hiding. The Valiant continued to power up around them. Jake Morrison realized that his simple mining expedition had just become the starting point for something that would change the galaxy forever. The 3 Zephyrian patrol ships moved through space like hunting sharks. Commander Zektar led the formation, his reptilian eyes fixed on the scanner readings. Something was wrong in the asteroid field ahead. Commander, we're detecting 2 ships, reported his weapons officer. One appears to be a mining vessel, but the other ... double quotes, he paused, checking his readings again. The other is much larger. Zektar's scales shifted to a darker color, showing his concern. How large? 15 kilometers, sir. It's massive. On the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Nathan Cross watched the approaching ships on his main screen. Jake Morrison and his crew stood nearby, still trying to understand what they had gotten themselves into. "Admiral," Jake said, "you don't have to do this. We can all leave together." Nathan shook his head. "Captain Morrison, for 300 years I've dreamed of this moment. The chance to show the galaxy that humanity survived. I won't waste it." "But, sir," Helen Wright said, "if you fight them, the whole galaxy will know you're here. Every species that participated in the war will come for you." Nathan turned to face her. "Dr. Wright, let me tell you a story. 300 years ago, humanity was expanding across the galaxy. We were explorers, inventors, builders. We created art and music and technology that amazed other species." He walked to a wall display and touched it. Images of Earth appeared, showing cities and forests and oceans. We weren't perfect, but we were trying to build something better. A galaxy where different species could work together and learn from each other. The images changed, showing spaceships and space stations. But the Zephyrians saw us as a threat. They were afraid that humans would become too powerful, too influential. So they convinced other species to join them in a war of extinction. Carlos Martinez watched the images with growing horror. They really tried to kill every human in the galaxy? "Not just kill," Nathan said bitterly. "They wanted to erase us completely. They destroyed our colonies, our art, our history. They hunted down human children and families who had nothing to do with the war." The images showed burning planets and destroyed ships. Jake felt sick watching it. Why didn't anyone stop them? "Because they were afraid too," Nathan explained. "The Altarians, the Corvin Republic, the Stellar Union, they all joined the war because they thought humans were getting too strong. But you escaped," Lisa Adams said. "You and this ship." Nathan nodded. "The Valiant was Earth's last hope. We carried 50,000 of humanity's best and brightest. Scientists, engineers, artists, teachers, people who could rebuild our civilization if we survived. What happened to them?" Jake asked, though he feared the answer. "They died in there." "Sleep," Nathan said quietly. "The cryogenic systems failed after 200 years. I was the only one in this special command pod that could run on emergency power." The bridge fell silent. Jake tried to imagine waking up to find everyone you had ever cared about was gone. The loneliness would be unbearable. "Admiral Arias." Voice interrupted. "The Zephyrian ships are within communication range. They are demanding to speak with the mining vessel." Nathan looked at Jake. "Captain Morrison, this is your choice. You can talk to them and try to leave peacefully. Or you can stay and help me send a message to the galaxy." Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was scared but determined. Carlos was nervous but curious. Helen was fascinated by the historical importance of the moment. What kind of message? Jake asked. Nathan smiled grimly. "That humanity remembers, that we survived, and that we're not hiding anymore." On the lead Zephyrian ship, Commander Zektar was growing impatient. "Open a channel to the mining vessel," he ordered. The screen flickered, and Jake Morrison appeared. Zektar studied the human face with disgust. Humans were supposed to be extinct, yet here was one piloting a ship in his territory. "Human," Zektar said, "you are in violation of Galactic Council regulations." "This system is restricted." "Sorry, Commander," Jake replied. "We're just mining asteroids. We'll leave as soon as we're done." "You will leave now," Zektar demanded. "And you will explain what that large ship is doing here." Jake glanced off screen, as if checking with someone. "Large ship? I don't see any large ship." Zektar's scales darkened further. "Do not lie to me, human. Our sensors detect a 15-kilometer vessel in your vicinity." "Maybe your sensors are broken," Jake suggested. That was too much for Zektar. "Weapons officer, prepare to fire on the mining vessel. These humans are obviously up to something. But before the weapons could charge, something impossible happened. The asteroid field around them began to move. What had looked like rocks and ice started to shift and change. The massive object at the center began to reveal itself. "By the Ancient Ones," whispered the Zephyrian weapons officer. "It's a ship. A human ship." The Valiant emerged from its camouflage like a predator shedding its skin. 300 years of accumulated ice and rock fell away, revealing the sleek, deadly lines of humanity's greatest warship. "Impossible," Zektar breathed. All human ships were destroyed. On the Valiant's bridge, Nathan Cross stepped forward. "Arya, open a channel to the Zephyrian ships." "Channel open, Admiral." Nathan looked directly at Zektar through the screen. "Commander, I am Admiral Nathan Cross of the Earth Defense Force. You are in the presence of the starship Valiant, flagship of the human fleet." Zektar's face showed pure terror. "You're dead." "All humans are dead. We killed them all." "Not all of us," Nathan said calmly. "Some of us have been waiting, watching, learning, and now we're awake." "This is impossible," Zektar said. "The war ended 3 centuries ago. Humanity was defeated." "Humanity was betrayed," Nathan corrected, "by species we thought were our friends, but we prepared for that betrayal. We hid ships like this all across the galaxy." Jake watched the exchange with fascination. The Zephyrian commander looked like he was seeing a ghost, which in a way he was. "Admiral," Zektar said, trying to regain his composure, "the old war is over. The galaxy has moved on. There is peace now." "Peace?" Nathan laughed bitterly. "You call the extinction of an entire species peace? You call the systematic destruction of human culture and history peace? That was necessary," Zektar said. "Humans were too dangerous to be allowed to survive." "And now?" Nathan asked. "Are we still too dangerous?" Zektar looked at his instruments. The human ship was powering up weapons that his sensors couldn't fully understand. Technology that was centuries ahead of anything the Zephyrians had. "Admiral," Zektar said carefully, "perhaps we can discuss this diplomatically. The Galactic Council would be interested in negotiating with any human survivors. The same council that stood by while your people murdered human children?" Nathan's voice was cold. "The same council that divided up human territory like spoils of war?" "That was different," Zektar said. "That was wartime. Things are different now." "Are they?" Nathan asked. "Arya, show me the current galactic situation." The screen filled with star charts and data. Nathan studied them for a moment, then looked back at Zektar. "I see that human colonies are now called by different names. Human inventions are credited to other species. Human art and literature have been destroyed or claimed by your people." That's just how things developed," Zektar said weakly. "No," Nathan said. "That's how you planned it. You didn't just want to defeat humanity. You wanted to erase us from history. The Zephyrian ships were trying to back away, but they were trapped by the asteroid field. Nathan could destroy them easily, but he had a different plan." "Commander Zektar," Nathan said, "you're going to do something for me. You're going to return to your base and tell everyone what you've seen here. Tell them that humanity is not extinct. Tell them that we remember everything they did to us. And then?" Zektar asked. "Then we'll see if the galaxy has learned anything in the last 300 years." Nathan made a gesture, and the Valiant's weapons powered down. "You may leave, Commander. But know this, the next time we meet, it will be under very different circumstances." The Zephyrian ships fled as quickly as they could. Nathan watched them go, then turned to Jake and his crew. "Congratulations, Captain Morrison," Nathan said. "You've just witnessed the first contact between humanity and the galaxy in 300 years. What happens now?" Jake asked. Nathan smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Now the galaxy learns that the ghosts of the past have returned, and they're not very happy about what they found. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Commander Zektar's report reached Zephyrian High Command within hours, and from there, it traveled to every major species in the galaxy. The impossible had happened. Humanity had returned. In the great council chambers of Altair Prime, Chancellor Zareth of the Altarian Republic called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species filled the massive hall, their voices creating a buzz of worry and fear. Order. Zareth called, her blue skin pale with concern. We must address this crisis calmly. High Commander Crixful of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. His scales were dark with anger. There is no crisis. One old human ship does not threaten the entire galaxy. We destroyed them before. We can do it again. Can we? Asked Ambassador Veltok of the Corvan Republic. According to your own commander's report, this ship has technology far beyond anything we possess. Impossible, Crixful hissed. Human technology was always inferior to ours. Then how do you explain their survival? Asked Chancellor Zareth. How do you explain a ship that remained hidden for 300 years? Meanwhile, aboard the Valiant, Admiral Nathan Cross was busy with his own preparations. The ship's manufacturing bays, silent for centuries, were coming back to life. Robotic systems began producing new equipment and weapons. Admiral, said Jake. Morrison, my crew wants to help, but we don't know how. Nathan looked at the mining captain. Over the past few days, he had grown to respect Jake's courage and honesty. Captain, I need you to do something very important. I need you to contact other human survivors. I can try, Jake said. But most humans don't advertise what they are. We've learned to blend in with other species. That's exactly why I need your help, Nathan explained. Arya has been monitoring communications for centuries. She's identified possible human signals from across the galaxy. Dr. Helen Wright looked up from her study of the ship's databases. Admiral, these records show locations of other human installations. Research stations, supply depots, even other ships. Are they all still out there? Some are, Nathan said. Arya has been trying to make contact for decades. A few have responded, but most remain silent. Maybe they're afraid, suggested Carlos Martinez. If I'd been hiding for 300 years, I'd be pretty careful about coming out. Nathan nodded. Which is why we need to show them it's safe. We need to prove that humanity can defend itself again. Lisa Adams was monitoring the communications array. Admiral, we're getting responses to the broadcast signals. Weak ones, but they're there. Put them through, Nathan ordered. The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was a woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. She looked human, but her voice was cautious. This is Commander Amy Foster of the merchant vessel Wanderer. Who is this? Commander Foster, Nathan said. I am Admiral Nathan Cross of the Earth. Defense Force. Are you human? Amy's eyes widened. Earth Defense Force? That's impossible. The EDF was destroyed centuries ago. Not all of us, Nathan said. Some of us have been waiting for the right time to return. Amy was quiet for a long moment. Admiral, I represent a group of human survivors in the Outer Rim. We've been hiding on a small planet called Haven. There are about 10,000 of us. Nathan felt hope rising in his chest. 10,000? That's wonderful news, Commander. But, Admiral, Amy continued, we've survived by staying hidden, by not making waves. If we come out now, the galaxy will turn on us again. The galaxy already knows we're here, Nathan said. The Zephyrians have spread the news. We can't hide anymore. Over. The next few hours, more signals came in. Small groups of humans from across the galaxy, all reporting the same story. They had survived by hiding, by pretending to be extinct, by living in fear. How many? Nathan asked Arya. Approximately 2 million humans in scattered groups throughout the galaxy, Arya replied. Most groups contain fewer than 50,000 individuals. Nathan felt both joy and sadness. 2 million humans had survived, but that was nothing compared to the billions who had died. Still, it was more than enough to rebuild. Admiral, Jake said, what's the plan? You can't fight the entire galaxy with one ship, Nathan smiled. Who said anything about one ship? Arya, status report on the other installations. 7 installations have responded to our signals, Arya reported. 3 are research stations, 2 are supply depots, and 2 are ships similar to the Valiant. Similar? Alan asked. The Defiant and the Resolute, Nathan explained. They were built at the same time as the Valiant. If they're still operational, we'll have a small fleet. But even as Nathan made his plans, the galaxy was making plans of its own. In the Zephyrian capital, High Commander Crixvol was assembling a massive fleet. I want every available ship, he told his officers. We will not allow the human plague to spread again. Sir, one of his officers said carefully, the Galactic Council has not authorized military action. The Council is full of cowards, Crixvol snarled. They're too afraid to do what's necessary. But I am not. I will finish what my ancestors started. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. Some species wanted to destroy the humans immediately. Others wanted to negotiate. A few even suggested that humanity might be useful as allies. On the Valiant, Nathan was having his own difficult conversations. Commander Amy Foster had arrived with a small fleet of human survivors, and they were not all happy about Nathan's plans. Admiral, Amy said, you're talking about revealing ourselves to the entire galaxy. That's suicide. Commander, Nathan replied, we're already revealed. The question is whether we face the galaxy as victims or as equals. But we're not equals, argued Captain Bill Turner, another survivor. We're 2 million humans against billions of aliens. The math doesn't work. Nathan looked at the assembled human commanders. They were brave people who had kept their communities alive through centuries of hiding. But they were also afraid, and he understood why. You're right, Nathan said. We're not equals in numbers. But we have something they don't. What's that? Amy asked. We have nothing left to lose, Nathan said. For 300 years, we've been dead to the galaxy. Now we're alive again. That makes us dangerous. It also makes us targets. Bill pointed out, we've always been targets, Nathan said. The only difference is that now we can shoot back. The debate continued for hours, but eventually Nathan's argument won. The human survivors would come out of hiding. They would reveal themselves to the galaxy and demand recognition. But Admiral, Amy said, what if they refuse? What if they try to destroy us again? Nathan looked at her with the confidence of a man who had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Then we'll remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place. As the human fleet prepared to leave the asteroid field, Arya detected massive energy signatures approaching from multiple directions. The Zephyrian battle fleet was coming, and they were bringing allies. Admiral, Arya reported, I count over 300 ships approaching our position. Zephyrian, Altarian, and Corvin vessels. Nathan studied the tactical display. It was an impressive force, but he wasn't worried. The Valiant alone could handle a fleet that size, and now he had other ships to help. Signal the fleet, Nathan ordered. All ships, prepare for battle. Today, the galaxy remembers what it means to fight humanity. Jake Morrison watched the preparations with amazement. A few days ago, he had been a simple mining captain. Now he was about to witness the return of humanity to galactic warfare. Captain Morrison, Nathan said, I want you and your crew to stay back during the battle. You've done enough by finding us. No, Jake said firmly. We started this together. We'll finish it together. Nathan smiled. It was the first genuine smile Jake had seen from the Admiral. Very well, but stay close to the Valiant. We'll protect you. The enemy fleet arrived in a massive formation. Hundreds of ships filled space around the asteroid field, their weapons powered and ready. At the center of the formation was the Zephyrian Dreadnought Destroyer, flagship of High Commander Crixval. Human vessel. Crixval's voice crackled over the communication system. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Nathan stepped forward on the bridge. Commander Crixval, I am Admiral Nathan Cross. I remember your grandfather, High Commander Vextar. He said the same thing 300 years ago. And he was right to do so, Crixval replied. Humans are a plague on the galaxy. We should have made sure you were all dead. Perhaps, Nathan said calmly. But you didn't? And now you'll pay for that mistake. The battle began without warning. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire first, sending thousands of energy blasts toward the human ships. But the Valiant's shields absorbed the attacks easily, the ancient technology far superior to anything the aliens possessed. Return fire, Nathan ordered. The Valiant's weapons came alive for the first time in centuries. Particle beams and quantum torpedoes streaked through space, striking enemy ships with devastating effect. Each shot destroyed or disabled an alien vessel. The other human ships joined the battle. Though smaller than the Valiant, they were just as advanced. The Defiant and Resolute, Nathan's sister ships, proved that human engineering was still the best in the galaxy. Impossible. Crixval breathed as he watched his ships being destroyed. Our intelligence said human technology was primitive. Your intelligence was wrong, Nathan replied over the 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council chamber on Altair Prime had never been so crowded. Representatives from every major species filled the Great Hall, but all eyes were on the newest arrival. Admiral Nathan Cross walked into the chamber wearing his Earth Defense Force uniform, followed by Jake Morrison and Dr. Helen Wright. The chamber fell silent as Nathan approached the central speaking platform. Many of the aliens present had never seen a living human before. Others remembered the old wars and looked at him with fear or hatred. Chancellor Zareth of the Altarian Republic stood up. Admiral Cross, you have requested to address this council. We have agreed to hear your words, but know that many here still consider humanity a threat to galactic peace. Nathan looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species that had once tried to destroy his people. Chancellor Zareth, honored representatives, I come before you not as a conqueror, but as someone who wants to build a better future. Pretty words, hissed High Commander Crixval from his seat. But we remember what humans were like before. Aggressive, expansionist, dangerous. And we remember what you did to us, Nathan replied calmly. You hunted our children. You destroyed our homes. You tried to erase us from history. The chamber erupted in angry voices from multiple species. Nathan waited for them to quiet down before continuing. But I'm not here for revenge, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. I'm here because the galaxy needs what humanity can offer. And what is that? Asked Ambassador Veltok of the Corvin Republic. Nathan gestured to Dr. Wright, who activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the chamber, showing advanced technologies and scientific breakthroughs. Medical technology that can cure diseases thought incurable, Nathan said. Energy systems that are clean and unlimited. Manufacturing techniques that can produce anything needed without damaging planets. The representatives leaned forward, studying the images with growing interest. Even Nathan's enemies couldn't hide their fascination with the advanced human technology. These are the innovations my people developed during our 3 centuries of hiding, Nathan continued. We could have used them to build weapons of revenge. Instead, We chose to build tools of peace. Why should we trust you? Called out Representative Morvok of the Stellar Union. Humans always wanted to dominate the galaxy. Because, Nathan said, we've learned something in our exile. We've learned that survival isn't about being the strongest or the most feared. It's about working together. Jake Morrison stepped forward. If I may speak, Admiral? Nathan nodded, and Jake addressed the council. I'm just a mining captain, but I've seen what the Admiral is talking about. In the past few weeks, I've watched humans and aliens working together on his ship. We're not so different from each other. But you defeated our fleet easily, Crixval accused. That shows you still think in terms of war. We defended ourselves. Nathan corrected. You brought 300 ships to destroy us. We could have killed everyone aboard those ships, but we chose to disable them instead. We chose mercy over revenge. Chancellor Zareth looked thoughtful. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Nathan took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. I propose that humanity be readmitted to the galactic community. As equals, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as partners. Partners? Crixval laughed harshly. After what happened between us? Especially after what happened between us, Nathan said. The old cycle of war and revenge has to end somewhere. Let it end with us. Dr. Wright activated another display, this one showing star charts and colony locations. Admiral Cross has authorized me to share the locations of all remaining human installations. We're offering complete transparency. The chamber buzzed with surprised voices. This was unprecedented. No species had ever revealed all their military secrets to potential enemies. Why? Asked Chancellor Zareth. Why give up your advantages? Because advantages built on secrets and fear don't last, Nathan explained. We want to build something. That will last for generations. And if we refuse? Crixval demanded. If we decide that humanity is still too dangerous to exist. Nathan's expression grew serious. Then you'll have to live with the consequences of that choice. But know this, we're not the same species you tried to destroy 3 centuries ago. We're stronger now, more united, and we have allies. As if summoned by his words, new figures entered the chamber. Commander Amy Foster led a group of human survivors from across the galaxy. Behind them came representatives from several smaller species who had remained neutral during the original war. The Ventari people stand with humanity, announced Ambassador Kyrin, a small insectoid being. They showed us kindness when others showed us only exploitation. The Free Traders Union supports the human proposal, added Captain Rex Donovan, a grizzled spacer who had worked with human survivors for decades. They're good people who keep their word. More voices joined in support. Nathan watched with satisfaction as species after species announced their backing for humanity's return. Not all of them, but enough to show that the galaxy was changing. Chancellor. ZAR-8 called for order. We will need time to discuss this proposal. The Council will recess for deliberation. But before the formal recess could begin, alarms began sounding throughout the station. An emergency signal was coming from the outer system. What's happening? Demanded Chancellor Zareth. The main display showed space around Altair Prime. Massive fleet was approaching, but these weren't any ships the Council recognized. They were sleek, dark vessels that moved with predatory grace. Unknown fleet? Identify yourself, called the station's communications officer. The response chilled everyone in the chamber. This is War Leader Thexmore of the Voidbringer Collective. You have something that belongs to us. Nathan felt his blood run cold. The Voidbringers were legends, a species from beyond the galactic rim that occasionally raided civilized space. They were ruthless, technologically advanced, and had never been successfully negotiated with. What do they want? Whispered Chancellor Zareth. The answer came quickly. We claim the technology of the extinct human species. Surrender it, or we will take it. Nathan looked around the chamber. The same species that had been debating whether to accept humanity were now looking to him for protection. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Admiral," Crixville said quietly, "can your ships defeat them?" Nathan studied the tactical display. The Voidbringer fleet was massive and well-armed. It would be a difficult fight, even for human technology. "I don't." "No," Nathan admitted, "but I know we have to try." He activated his communicator. "All human ships. This is Admiral Cross. We have a hostile fleet approaching Altair Prime. All species in this system are under our protection." "Admiral," came Amy Foster's voice, "the Defiant and Resolute are ready for battle." "And the Valiant," added Arya's calm voice, "is fully operational." Nathan turned to address the council. "Chancellor Zareth, I'm going to ask my ships to defend this station and everyone on it. Humans, aliens, everyone, we're all in this together now." The battle that followed would be remembered as the turning point in galactic history. The human ships fought alongside hastily assembled Council defense forces, sharing technology and tactics in real time. Jake Morrison found himself coordinating mining ships to evacuate civilians, while Dr. Wright worked with alien scientists to adapt human shield technology to their vessels. The cooperation that Nathan had dreamed of was happening under fire. The Voidbringer fleet was powerful, but they hadn't expected the unified response they faced. Human precision, Altarian speed, and Corvan stubbornness combined into a defense that held against the attackers. When the battle ended 12 hours later, the Voidbringer fleet was in full retreat. The station was damaged, but intact, and the various fleets had suffered losses, but emerged victorious in the aftermath. As rescue, operations continued and damaged ships were repaired. The Galactic Council reconvened. The debate was much shorter this time. The motion to readmit humanity to the galactic community passes by unanimous vote, announced Chancellor Zareth. Even Crixville had voted in favor, though he looked like it pained him. "You fought well, Admiral," he admitted grudgingly. Perhaps we can find a way to work together." Nathan smiled. "I believe we can, Commander. The past is behind us. It's time to build the future." 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new diplomatic station orbiting Earth. The planet below was green and blue again, restored by the combined efforts of dozens of species using human terraforming technology. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Admiral Cross approaching. "What's hard to believe?" Jake asked. "That it all started with a mining expedition," Nathan replied with a smile. "You changed the course of galactic history, Captain Morrison." Jake laughed. "I just found an asteroid that wasn't an asteroid. You did all the hard work." They stood together, watching ships from across the galaxy come and go from Earth's orbital stations. Human ships worked alongside alien vessels, sharing space and purpose. "Admiral," Jake said, "do you think it will last? This peace we've built?" Nathan considered the question carefully. "I think it has a better chance than any peace before it. We built it together after learning from our mistakes. That makes it stronger." Below,